From St. Joseph, Missouri, here is Travis Lee Hartman.
Everything good comes from us drinking?
Me and you.
Oh, yeah, I guess so far it hasn't been negative. So we're going to go with that. That seems to be a great opener. Whenever you're drinking, something good happens.
Responsibly drinking good. Because me and B-Money are responsible.
We are. And this happens to be the latest episode of Weighing In with Travis Hartman. Thank you so much for joining us. We are in episode 28. We are coming to you via the TH Boxing Facility here in Orlando, Florida. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. If you have yet to do so, especially on YouTube, smash that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon so you're notified anytime that we update with another episode, maybe a vlog, maybe a fight prediction, maybe whatever.
Interview in this corner.
We got a lot of stuff going on the channel, folks. So we thank you for the support and following along. If you're not doing so, click it and also forward it along to your friends and pals and gal pals and everyone else. We thank you so much. Weekend Trav.
Yes, sir.
I heard somewhere that we are the #1 beard bourbon boxing podcast based out of Orlando, Florida.
Ooh,
in the world.
There's a lot of specifics there, and I think that's what gets
the
it.
#1 podcast. So we appreciate every one of you for voting us up on however that works on the algorithm, which that's a funny topic we'll get to, I think, later.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you so much. I am B-Money, the producer. That over there, Weekend Trav, wait for the cameras.
This is the new Weekend Trav because, as everybody knows, if you check out what the weather is in Florida, it's freezing. Let me get the exact weather in Florida right now.
Oh, I got you here.
And I will. It says it's currently 55 with a low of 46. So I am wearing my TH Boxing logoed embroidered hoodie and stocking cap because it's actually cold.
Yeah.
So Weekend Trav broke from his normal tropical shirt because guess what? Today it's not tropical.
Well, to be fair.
So I'm going to be honest.
To be fair, Weekend Trav is Florida attire, okay? And a lot of Floridians today are wearing sweatshirts and knit caps and whatnot. Now, our weather fluctuates like crazy. When I woke up this morning, it was in the 40s. And then when I went to the grocery store around noon, it was like 60-something.
Yeah, so it's very different around here.
Yeah, very different. So
so I'm born and raised in Missouri, the Midwest. Mm-hmm. If they're listening to this, they're going to give me a lot of crap because if it was 55 degrees in January in Missouri, we are wearing shorts and short-sleeve shirts, and I'm not kidding, like 100%.
Well,
so
I
apologize, guys.
I encourage them to give you crap because that in itself is feedback. So, anywho, thank you once again. We are here, episode 28, Weekend Trav. Came off of a lot of boxing news. We had our wrap-up show 2 weeks ago. We had our follow-up show just that tied all of our Dallas trip together via Zoom last week. So if you guys caught that, that's great. If you didn't, it's out there as well on Spotify, all the audio podcast choices, and obviously YouTube. So Weekend Trav, we're going to jump into the boxing stuff here in just about 15 seconds, right after I thank our media partners, which is TH Boxing, Gulfstream Financial, and IF Enterprises. Thank you so much. 15 seconds over. So
loyal supporters of us. I appreciate that.
They're loyal to a fault. So yeah, anyways.
That's true loyalty, though.
So let's get into the boxing stuff. Let's get into boxing news. Weekend Trav, what are we weighing in on today?
Oh, right away, it's pretty awesome. Ryan Garcia is definitely parlaying his phenomenal knockout because he got to go on the Mike Tyson podcast, which is Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson is what it's called, I believe.
I don't think it's Hot Boxing. I think it's Hot Box and
yeah, I think you're right. No G.
Yeah,
Hot Boxing, which is another meaning.
He's had a career change.
Regardless,
yeah,
he has. But it was pretty cool because Ryan Garcia, in my opinion, the kid is good for boxing because the kid is super popular on social media. And as we know of a week ago, he's not just a social media darling. The kid can fight. Mm-hmm. The kid's got grit. The kid is tough because he got up off the canvas to knock out Luke Campbell. So it was pretty cool because he was sitting there with Mike Tyson, and this is why I bring it up because some kind of big things happened because that 135-pound division, the lightweight division right now, it's probably, honestly, it's probably one of the hottest divisions right now, just because it's taking up a lot of the media attention because of guys like Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, Lomachenko, Tank Davis.
Mm-hmm.
So the cool thing is, Ryan Garcia is on the Mike Tyson podcast, and Mike Tyson picks up the phone and FaceTimes Gervonta Tank Davis.
Yep.
And if you don't know about this, they're both in the same weight class. They've been feuding massively for a while, actually, via Twitter. So it was actually, I mean, like, surely it was planned, but I don't know, because Ryan Garcia didn't seem like it was planned.
No.
So I think Tyson was like, hey, how about I just boom, boom, call him up and put it on there. And they actually feuded pretty good. Like, you saw that as well.
Yes, I did.
They feuded pretty good.
So we're always here in support of other podcasts, of other video channels, things like that. I think there's plenty of hours of the day to view some of these cool things. So definitely head over to that. If you have not caught that episode, or even those snippets from that Hot Boxing
Mike
episode,
Tyson.
It's out there. It's all over, like you mentioned Twitter. I don't even know what is Twitter? It's on Instagram, all over the place.
I got banned.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Everything else is shutting down too, so it's kind of crazy. But if you have yet to catch any video clip of that, it's such made to see TV or made for TV stuff. It's great. It helps build things up. And I think to myself, how could the next fight be anything but that now?
Yeah, agreed. And you know what I think was cool is that originally podcasts were just like audio.
Right.
But I think it's taken off, and I think we're on board with that, because we video record our podcasts as well. And to see a video of Mike Tyson FaceTiming Gervonta Tank Davis, and then seeing the physical reaction of Ryan Garcia, that's what it's all about. Like, I think that's where podcasts are going, and I think that's where we're headed as well. And we've been there.
I think so. The problem is that we've been told that we have faces for radio. So that in itself is
First
an
of
issue.
all, I don't think anybody's actually ever said that. But
well, maybe I think behind our backs.
first of all, you have a voice of an angel.
Thank you.
So you have a voice for podcasts as well.
You're-
But you also have a face for TV.
Well, what I have to tell you is that, and you made mention of it when we were doing some of the pre-production stuff and getting video stuff set up. Your beard's come in real nice. You are starting to look like a real legit lumberjack.
I'm a mountain man.
I mean that in a very positive way.
I mean, why would that be negative? I wouldn't
It's
take
not.
that negative.
Lumberjack, that's great.
We should all want to be
Yeah,
lumberjacks.
yeah. When I
They
shave,
take care of their families. They take care of their homes. They go cut wood and kill animals and bring them back.
do they do the animals thing? I know the
I don't know.
wood.
I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Well, they got to eat.
Yeah, where do they eat at then? They don't go to McDonald's after go cutting down a tree.
They really shouldn't. They really
Exactly.
shouldn't. It's beneath them.
It is.
Beneath them. That was a tangent. So we're back. But yeah, I think you're right. The evolution of the podcast, obviously our forefathers of this being, Joe Rogan and others,
Hey,
right?
hey, good
They are the
mention.
ones that have springboarded into not just the audio side, but the video side. I embrace the audio side. We have the cameras on us. So you guys know this. If you're watching, you know this. We have cameras on us. We've had it from day one. But we're trying our best to make sure we're gazing at each other.
Stare into those beautiful brown eyes.
And those baby blue eyes that only Oscar De La Hoya and myself are just floored by. So
Listen, thank you, Oscar. I love you.
yeah. So, and once again, if you haven't seen that video, it is also up there. And Travis walking away like he was floating on clouds.
Listen, I'm not gonna hide it, and I'm not gonna dismiss the fact that I was on cloud nine when Oscar. Not only did he remember me, but he also said the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that I have a beard, and then he said the eyes, and that was like, I'm like, you know what? I love you, Oscar.
Listen.
All of the bad stuff I've ever said
Listen.
about you, I love you.
Hold on. If Aaron Rodgers ever gave me from afar, gave me one of the smug little looks that he does,
Cloud nine.
I think I would want my life to be over at that moment, because that is the pinnacle.
Yes.
Like if you watch the Pat McAfee show, or you just watch him on interviews or whatever, Aaron Rodgers just goes, that's it.
So you know how I felt then.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
how
I don't know,
that's
because I won't know until that happens.
Well, but you know, you can imagine.
Yeah.
What
we'd actually call it a fantasize, not just imagine. I would fantasize what that's like.
Okay, that was a little too much.
So
this is PG-13.
So we're on
I
Hot
thought.
Boxing. Actually, Ryan Garcia's on it. They FaceTime Tank Davis, and then not hilarious. Well, drama really ensues.
there you
It
go.
was meant to be.
It was entertaining.
It was meant to be entertaining for sure, and then business picked up, as they say.
Listen, it was okay. I'll be honest about this because I'm really good at my predictions of boxing matches over the years, not just a couple fights, over the years. So the reason I bring this up is because Tank and Ryan Garcia were getting into it via FaceTime, and Ryan Garcia looked at Tank and he said 2. And he wasn't saying peace. He was saying, I will knock you out in 2 rounds. So before Ryan Garcia knocked out Luke Campbell in the 7th round with a body shot, before that fight even happened, if you would have held a gun to my head and made me do a prediction of Tank and Ryan Garcia, I'm predicting Tank wins. Okay? After the Luke Campbell fight now, my whole world and my whole expertise of predicting that fight has changed, and it's updated because I evolve and I grow with the times, and I pay very, very close attention to fights, and that's why I predict pretty good, because I have an inside knowledge of the ring and I see little things that most people don't see. And now, if you want me to make that prediction, it's a 50-50 fight.
Okay.
I can't make that prediction. Not yet, but I will if that fight happens, which actually I think they've already agreed verbally. Mm-hmm. So I think that fight is actually going to happen because they both have agreed verbally multiple times now. So there's nowhere for either one of them to run and hide.
Explain to the listeners and viewers at home how it works, though, because from what I'm aware of and after hearing you talk a little bit in a prior conversation, it seems set up that it's supposed to be Ryan Garcia and
Devin Haney.
There you go. Sorry about that. So explain how that kind of contractual agreement is set up and how there's some wiggle room there.
So I believe that, I forget which governing body, which sanctioning body it was. I think it was the WBC maybe. They ordered that Devin Haney is now Ryan Garcia's mandatory.
Okay.
Which what that means is he's supposed to fight him his next fight.
Right.
However, if you pay attention to any big-time boxing, you will know that a sanctioning body ultimately on a big time fight, they don't have ultimate control, meaning that there's actually wiggle room in there which allows for Ryan Garcia to apply for a step-aside fight, it's called. So what they would do is they would pay Devin Haney, or wouldn't even have to necessarily pay him, but they could offer him a step-aside money to let Ryan Garcia fight another notable fighter. They would have to approve it, in their opinion, which let's say it was the WBC. So the WBC, Ryan Garcia would have to submit stuff to them and say, hey, I want to fight this guy, which is Tank. Will you guys allow me to take a step-aside fight and not fight my mandatory? And for a guy like Tank, they would approve that. A first-time basis, they would approve it. So there's a lot of like complicated scenarios when it comes to the WBC and sanctioning bodies as mandatories. They call it, like I air quote that because it's not. When you say mandatory, that means you have to do it, right? Well, they don't. Most people don't fight their mandatories. Hardly ever, actually.
And that's why I wanted you to talk about it, because I think there's some folks that are just running with things they see and stating what they believe is truth and not understanding that there's a gray area there. The language is such where that's the way it works. So that's why I wanted you to be able to explain it. So I appreciate you spending about a minute or two on that. But it does seem that the most sense right now, and even from Ryan Garcia's camp and out of his mouth, he doesn't want Haney right now. First of all, they're friends.
Yep.
They fought 6-time amateurs, split 3-3, right? They're friends. Haney,
was it 3-3?
Yeah.
I actually thought Haney had the edge, but
from what I read, it was 3-3. Now
right.
I could be wrong.
Right.
I could be wrong.
I don't know that one, but I thought Haney had the edge.
Money is money on some things. He ain't necessarily money on that.
Either way, that they've actually had fights in the amateurs.
Either way, the guys are tight.
Yep.
Haney was there at the fight in Dallas, though I didn't see him. I guess he was there. I think you may have seen him or whatever. But they don't want that. Those two guys, they would rather be my bracketology concept. It leads up to that.
But to be fair, they both do want it, and even Ryan Garcia said it.
Yes.
He said, "Listen,
not yet.
It's business." He goes, "If you tell me that I have to fight Devin Haney," he's like, "I'll fight Devin Haney." He's like, without a doubt, and Devin knows that, and Devin's a business guy too. He knows that.
Sure.
But to be fair as well, this is the clear there because if Ryan Garcia doesn't end up fighting Devin Haney, because Devin Haney is his mandatory now, air quotes again, because that's kind of BS in my opinion, but Devin Haney is his mandatory. If Garcia doesn't fight Haney and ends up fighting Tank Davis, I promise you, because of the complication of it all, you're going to have Devin Haney fans saying, "Oh my God, Ryan Garcia is dodging Devin Haney." He's not.
Sure.
So, But if Devin Haney fights Tank Davis and wins, then without a doubt, Devin Haney, whoever he fights next, and if he wins, they do need to fight because they both put it out there. So now it does need to happen. So if that scenario does work itself out in your bracketology group, if Ryan Garcia beats Tank Davis, and then Devin Haney, whoever he fights next, it could be Teofimo, it could be Lomachenko, it could be Linares, it could be, dude, that division is pretty cool right now.
The way I feel as if it's setting up, it would be Lopez. That's the impression.
You think it'll be Devin Haney and Lopez?
Yeah, that's the impression I'm getting.
Who would you think would win that fight?
Good Lord, I don't know.
You're kind of a big Lopez fan a little bit.
Well, he's
after
grown on me.
Lomachenko.
He's grown on me.
Yeah.
He showed me a lot there. Now, granted, Loma went in hurt, and it was in the contracts between the two. They knew he was hurt. They knew he was getting shots in the shoulder, that sort of thing. So it just wasn't really.
We only know that because of inside.
Yeah,
conversations.
We have a little inside stuff. Listen, we pull some stuff. We pull some strings. We know some people. We hear some things.
A couple people.
Anyways, I think it's going to set up with those four being in that sort of bracket, and Loma looking on, getting healthy, and just kind of waiting. Yeah, rubbing his hands
together, like, go ahead, guys,
and waiting
to
see.
Fight for me still, even though I lost.
Right. So I can very well see it where Lopez is going to be in the mix, and it's probably going to end up being Haney, because. Yeah, you mentioned Linares, you mentioned Loma, but I think Loma's going to still just rehab more, which I saw him on the speed bag. He's already in the speed bag.
That's phenomenal.
He's a machine.
He is.
And
what is he, Ukrainian? Like the dude just is. He's massive. Like he is a mean machine.
135 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal, right?
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Even though he's actually not 100, he actually fought lower weight classes and moved up to get these big fights.
Yeah.
But
anyways,
nonetheless.
So I think that's, at least from a fan's perspective, to me, that makes a lot of sense. Having those four guys in the mix. I don't mean to be disrespectful to the other guys that could possibly be there. But if you want the two top fights right now in that weight division at the moment, those four names have to be a part of that, whatever the mix and match is.
And to be fair, I watched a video of Teofimo Lopez and his dad speaking with Matchroom Boxing guy Eddie Hearn, and he said, $10 million and we'll fight Haney. So if they're willing to cough up that kind of cash, which it's possible.
So.
It really is possible. So we could possibly see a Teofimo Lopez Devin Haney fight. And dude, man, I know that I'm a huge boxing fan, but I don't care who you are. That division is really exciting because what makes it so exciting is those guys are all literally greats in their own way. They really are, and undefeated right now.
Yep.
If they fight each other, so good for boxing because one, that's why I'm a big fan of Ryan Garcia now, especially two, is the kid's 22 years old, B-Money. And he's already wanting to take on these type of fights. Usually, and this is where I think Floyd Mayweather gets a little bit knocked, which I don't agree with, but he does because they think that he pick and choose who he fought. Eventually, he fought them all. But to be fair, he really didn't fight them all that young. He fought good fighters for sure, but his resume was impressive, like post 30 years old almost, like late 20s, post 30. Like that's when his resume got phenomenal. But you have Ryan Garcia, 22 years old. You have Teofimo Lopez, 15-0 before he fought Lomachenko.
And how old is he? He's only, what?
He's young
he's 26
as well.
or 25?
I think he's younger than that.
Is he?
But he's young too, and he's only had 16 pro fights now.
Right.
So those two guys, their mindset, I genuinely hope that goes through the whole entire boxing culture, showing people that you can fight the best, no matter if you're undefeated or not. Don't protect that record.
Right.
Protect boxing. Protect the integrity of boxing and fight the best. And I think, I think, they already are showing that. They are. The fact that Teofimo Lopez stepped up and fought Lomachenko. The fact that Lomachenko actually started all of that because Lomachenko was 1-0 and he fought Orlando Salido in his second pro fight. In a championship fight.
Yeah.
He was 1-0 and he fought a world titleist. Literally, it blows my mind that actually happened. That's actually more phenomenal than I can even think in my mind. But the fact is, all of these guys are good for boxing.
Yeah.
Period. The fact they're fighting the best, they're not worried about protecting their record. They're worried about giving great fights. Boxing fans, I know they've already tuned in because of that very fearless factor. We're not caring about our record. We're caring about putting on great fights. That's what boxing needs to continue to grow to where it is.
And here's what also helps. It's not just the talent. It's not just the possible matchmaking. These guys, they're going to bring in the random sports fan. There's personality. I was very critical of Lopez back when he was fighting Loma because I saw some interview stuff. I'm like, ooh, it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
He's been sharpening his skill. Trust me, I've seen it.
Well, when you win, it helps.
Well, yeah, when you win and then you start getting on social media, because he's trying to catch up to Ryan Garcia on social media. I get that, but he's dangling the belts across every appendage he has. I mean, he has all these belts. I'm telling you, these guys, they're young, dynamic, have personality, and they're carrying a lot of what's missing in some other weight divisions, weight classes right now. They're doing a great job on just promoting themselves, which they have to do. They have to do.
Yep.
Because you're going to get losers like Bob Arum and others that aren't going to do that actual promoting work for any of these guys and, other fighters.
Which is why Terence Crawford's hurting right now.
Bingo. And honestly, I just think every day that goes by, and that was a different topic, every day that goes by, he's sliding to number 2. He's getting closer and closer to number 2, and Canelo is rising on the pound for pound.
Segue to go right into a guy like Canelo, because Canelo, they're saying, is going to also jump back into the ring in February,
Yep.
and then another one in May because he likes Cinco de Mayo. So, which is phenomenal. Like, you don't see top fighters fight that frequently.
Right.
And the fact that I actually kind of really love that now. Now that Canelo is kind of a free agent, not kind of, he is a free agent. When he got away from Golden Boy and DAZN, even though his last fight was for them, he still was an unredited
He can
free
still fight
agent.
for him. He can still fight for him.
And he probably will because he
can fight
likes
for
that.
whoever.
And I think he likes that relationship because they have done pretty good. But the fact is, Canelo is one of the biggest names in the sport, and he fights everybody as well. But the reason why it's a big deal we're talking about it is because the more and more I've discussed this with people about the pound-for-pound best. I have Canelo 2, and I have Terence Crawford 1. But you know this because you've been with me. Every single time that we start talking about this, and I start rehashing all of Canelo's previous fights, his current fights, all the way up until now, I look at it and I'm like, by far, without a single doubt in my mind, Canelo has the best resume in boxing right now.
Yeah.
Current fighters, without a doubt, he's got the best resume. So I'm like, well, Travis, how do you have Terence Crawford above him? And the reason I have Terence Crawford above him is because I see that potential in Terence Crawford because multiple reasons. 1, I've fought him before. 2, I've seen him in the ring against the best. And the best that he's ever fought, he has been a class above them.
Well, so I got to start pushing back on it. Potential is one thing.
Yep.
Potential is definitely one thing, but proven commodity is another.
Potential will get you in trouble. It will. It will definitely get you in trouble. And that's why I've made this declaration. I'm going to make it again. In the next 3 to 6 months, maybe less. I'm saying 3 to 6, but what I really mean is Crawford's next fight or his next fight after his contract expires with Bob Arum, if Bob Arum doesn't get him a big fight. So, but I can also, listen, I can't punish Crawford because he hasn't been allowed to get in the ring with the elite in that division, meaning Errol Spence. He hasn't been allowed to get in the ring. However, I also cannot punish Canelo because Canelo has also been in the ring with the best and beat the best. So I'm torn, but I made this declaration and I'm going to stick to it. Whether Crawford loses or not, if he doesn't fight somebody within the next 3 to 6 months, I have to take Canelo and put Canelo number 1 pound for pound, which some people already have him there, but I would have to leapfrog Crawford.
I just feel that at a certain point, because we're all talking about it, everyone that discusses boxing, whether it's on a podcast format, if it's on loser networks like ESPN or whatever else, Crawford, he has some power there too, and they aren't pushing it. Nope. They aren't pushing to get a top talent fight.
And he's with ESPN too. And Bob Arum.
He could easily be, his camp could easily be also pushing back saying, no, we want this, or you know what? We're not fighting. Listen, Canelo pushed back, and he got out of his contract.
To be fair, in that regard, though, you were right, but also Canelo pushed back because Canelo is a massive draw.
Right.
Crawford doesn't have that.
Correct.
Although Crawford is, in my opinion, the best pound for pound, he doesn't have the money or the backing
Listen,
to make that decision, that sucks, actually.
Completely understand that. But at a certain point, you can't blame, which we've had conversations about Bob Arum, we can't blame everything on Bob Arum for that. At a certain point, just like self-promotion is important for a fighter.
When that contract expires, and I think it's September or October of 2021 with Crawford and Bob Arum. When that contract expires, I'm going to really judge Terence Crawford on what he does, because if he ends up staying with him and doesn't get a big fight before September or October, I have a problem with that.
100%.
And now I'm blaming Bob. I am, and openly, and I've been critical of Bob Arum in the past on other radio shows as well.
Everyone is.
And I've been consistent with this. If he stays with Bob Arum and Bob Arum does nothing up to that point, now the fault is going to openly and drastically fall on Terence Crawford, because Crawford knows they're feuding now. Him and Bob Arum are feuding now because they've said some choice words between each other. But if Terence Crawford stays with Bob Arum through his contract, I think it's September or October is when it ends. If he stays with him after that and hasn't got a big fight before then, I will openly criticize Terence Crawford.
Sure.
Because he deserves it at that point. He needs to do what's best for him, and he knows that. And
Right.
he needs to do what's best for him, because Bob Arum is doing what's best for Bob Arum, meaning Bob Arum cares about making money, because that's what a promoter cares about. Ultimately, yes, they care about fighters. They do. But their number one bottom line is they care
We've
about
had
money.
this conversation before about him specifically for decades. How many guys has he been a part of and just let them go? And they went on to do great things in their career, right? A lot. So let's do just a kind of a quick response sort of question and answer sort of thing. We're going to talk Canelo first, then Terence Crawford. Canelo,
Give it to
not
me
a lot of
money.
explanation. Just give me 2 names that you think he should fight next. 1 of 2 names that you think should be his next fight.
The top 2, I think, which is on everybody's plate, is one, it's Triple G. People really, because those 2 fights they've had together, one was a draw, one was a very narrow decision that Canelo won. So a trilogy probably should happen.
Which he just came out with a certain requirement on that. I saw it earlier today.
So, and the hard thing is now, though, is Canelo's moved up 2 weight classes since he fought Triple G. And Triple G's still at middleweight, which is 160. Canelo went to 168, then 175, back down to 168, and won a world title. So I'm going to say Triple G, and I'm going to give this other guy some love, is Caleb Plant.
Okay.
I think Caleb Plant is a super middleweight that should be in the discussion to fight a Canelo Alvarez. And Caleb Plant, I believe, is fighting January 30th now against a former world champion, Caleb Truex. So I think that everybody, I mean, maybe even throw Caleb Plant first and then a Triple G. But I think Triple G and Caleb Plant are the 2 next big fights for Canelo, in my opinion. And you could also throw in the Charlo brother as well.
Oh, yeah.
So you could throw that in there.
That
but
could be.
honestly, in my opinion, I don't want to see that one technically before those other 2. But would I watch it if Canelo, dude, and to give Canelo massive respect, if Canelo chose to fight Charlo, I mean, the dude, win or lose, he, in my opinion,
should then be, honestly, at that point, he's number 1.
He's that. But I mean, his choice of opponents already, and I've told you, he's fought guys that we don't really talk about, guys like Trout and Erislandy Lara, who Canelo fought and beat. Close decisions against Lara for sure, too. But those are guys that nobody wanted to fight at the time when Canelo fought them. Canelo didn't have to fight them. He's such a big name that he could have bypassed them and pushed him to the side, and nobody would have said a dang word, but he chose to fight him. Same thing with Triple G. Fought Triple G twice. Didn't have to do any of those, and he did it. So I respect Canelo and the fact that he is good for boxing because he fights the best, period. He fought Floyd Mayweather when he was like 24 years old.
Right.
Most people were like, you're too young. You shouldn't be doing it. But he was 49 or
But he
47.
learned a
or
lot
no.
from that. So I
But he
remember watching
did.
that, and he learned a lot from that.
He's only gotten better.
So those are the 2 names you got there: Triple G, and then you said Caleb Plant, correct?
Yep, Caleb Plant.
All right, so
Sweet hands, Caleb Plant.
Same question and kind of shorter response. Terence Crawford, 2 names that you want to see at least being one of the next fights for him.
Okay, 2 names.
2 names.
I have 2 fights for you, but I don't have 2 names. I have Errol Spence
Okay.
and then Errol Spence. That's the next 2 fights that I want to see with
Gotcha.
Crawford. And the reason I say that is because I think they're going to be such contested fights that I'm going to want to see a second. So that's the only 2 names I have right now. And I think Errol Spence the same way. If you ask me for Errol Spence, I say the next fight for both of those guys, because they're to the point of no return now, meaning there is nobody else out there that we want to see them fight except each other.
Right.
So I'm not giving either one of those guys leeway, which mainly is their promoters. I'm not giving them leeway because those 2 guys, I believe, want to fight each other. So Terence Crawford needs to fight Errol Spence.
Mm-hmm.
Errol Spence needs to fight Terence Crawford for both of their legacies, for both of their everything, their respect in boxing. Period.
For not only
Crawford's in his 30s now.
Yeah, they
So
need it. They need
they
it.
gotta fight.
They need it for not only their present, but also the next step.
Yep.
They both need that.
Yep, agreed.
They both need that.
That would be the best fighter on both of their resumes, bar none. That would be the best fighter that Errol Spence has ever fought. That would also be the best fighter that Terence Crawford has ever fought, which is a great recipe for boxing fans. Let's see it.
Okay, so you heard it here from Weekend Trav. Those are the two names, not only for Canelo, but also for Terence Crawford, though it was really one name. And that is really what's going to help cement at least Terence Crawford or Errol Spence's, well, actually both of theirs, legacies going forward.
Yep.
They need to fight top competition now going forward, because in the grand scheme of things, especially when you look pound for pound, which some people do have Errol Spence in that top 5, top 10, just depends on the rankings. These guys need it because Canelo is just marching to the top. And I think almost what happens is that in Canelo's case, because he's so good, because he's such a name, because he's so marketable, because of who he is, it actually hurts him in the rankings. It holds him back because people are like, yeah, I know it's Canelo, but man, have you seen this one guy? This one guy's up there too. Yeah. But this is kind of like Canelo's a steady Eddie. It's like almost like everyone knows Jordan was the greatest basketball player of all time, but we have the argument like, man, LeBron might be up there. Kobe's up there. No, Michael Jordan was always the best, and he is the best.
We're in an echo chamber because I believe the same thing.
Yeah, but some people will put Kobe in that list. Some people will put, you know, the big sleepy, they'll put Tim Duncan randomly in there because he's won so many titles and whatever. Yeah. But then obviously LeBron James. So that's the basketball 30 seconds for the year we gave it. There it is. So the pound for pound rankings, though, it's just a fictitious title of sorts.
It is, and that's opinion of the experts.
Opinion of the experts.
Nothing that's set in stone.
These fighters, there's some ego and pride to that too, but ultimately they want to win, and they want to beat whoever's in front of them, and they want the gold, they want the titles,
and they want to make as much money as possible
and
while
make
they do
a ton of
money. Professional boxers are prize fighters. We fight for a prize.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's where we're at with the boxing front there. Weekend Trav. What I want to do right now, let's just go and highlight what we're drinking now. Now, if you guys have been following us along, we had a vlog that we posted back a couple of days ago.
Vlog.
That's what he said in it too. And we went out to Hagen O'Reilly's out in Winter Garden, Florida. And great place. And we tried a bunch of different bourbons and things like that. We thought it might be good just to pull it back a little bit today.
Yes.
Let's pull the reins back. Let's just get a little something to wet our palate, and very basic, very simply, Jack Daniel's honey.
Tennessee honey.
You know, it's okay. It's good. I enjoy it. It's I know it's not bourbon per se. It's a whiskey, I think, classified, and maybe it is still technically a bourbon that's flavored.
I'm not sure. What's it say on the bottle?
I don't know. You know.
Does it give us a whiskey? I think Jack Daniel's is a whiskey, though.
It's a
whiskey. It's a bourbon.
Yeah, it should be, isn't it?
I don't know.
Shoot, you know, we're going to get butchered here. I hope you do butcher me. You should. Comment and butcher below. So the Jack Daniel's honey, and also to be quite honest with you, neither of us went shopping. So we just kind of were drinking what we had.
Jack Daniel's honey.
And you know what? It's satisfying me right now.
I love it. So the reason why I love it too is because we did try some bourbon rye, right? And my favorite was, I think it was Angel's Envy. And it was the sweetest one, which reminded me a lot of Jack Daniel's. Don't get me wrong, it's not the same as Jack Daniel's honey for sure.
No.
But it was a sweet, almost a caramel type that I loved. And I love that type of whiskey and bourbon. So that's what I got from that. And that's why I actually, very affordable, very cheap Jack Daniel's honey. I like.
Yeah. So the other day we did have Sazerac Rye. It was rye. Sorry, we weren't bourbon tasting. We were rye tasting.
It was all rye.
That's my fault. So we're doing a Sazerac. We did Whistle Pig 12-year aged rye. We also did Heaven's Door, and then that Angel's Envy you're talking about.
Angel's Envy was my favorite.
And actually, you know what? For me, in that case, if you watch the vlog, you'll know the Sazerac was actually my favorite because it just had its. For me, it was good. But
massive shout out to Hagen O'Reilly's, by the way, and
good dudes.
Lewis gave us some great stuff. Frank hooked us up with some great stuff.
Frank the Tank.
It was amazing. But guys, like we are gonna be back there at Hagen O'Reilly's, and we're gonna do some stuff there.
Absolutely,
they're good people, boxing knowledgeable people, but also more importantly, They know their bourbon, whiskey, rye, all of that.
Yeah.
They hooked us up.
Yeah, they hooked us up. But ultimately, for me, you know what it is? It's that it's good people, Trav.
Yep.
Weekend Trav. When we go about our weekly days and months and years or whatever else, I pride myself on just trying to surround myself with good-hearted, good-minded people. You don't always have to have the same philosophies and thoughts that I have. It's nice to have shared experience and shared thoughts at times, but it's also good to have civil discourse, right?
Yep. That's the key word, civil discourse.
Civil. And you know, Weekend Trav, and it brings up kind of an interesting topic right now. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it just because I don't want to get too long in the tooth today because I think there's a lot of stuff for us to put out there. And but when we're looking at the whole concept of who you surround yourself with, are you, and we use this terminology a lot, are you putting yourself in an echo chamber, or are you willing to step out of that and actually have a conversation, understand why someone's coming from the point that they're coming from,
Yep.
and be able to walk away still in disagreement, but in friendship?
Yep.
Or walk away and understanding, okay, I understand why they think that way. I might not agree with it, but I understand.
Yep.
And I think we've gotten to a point, Weekend Trav, we've gotten to a point in our country, in our world, really, where it's, I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm going to do whatever I can in order to make sure that everyone else sees you're wrong too, and
Yep.
I'm right, and it's always me. It's making me sick, and that's why we've seen it ripple into such the unrest that we've seen, not only in the current week or the last week we saw with, you know, people rioting and marching up in D.C., but also going way back to the summertime with the race riots and looting and all this other stuff,
Yep.
and just the spite and verbal vitriol and venom being spit out at everybody on social media, which I think it's honestly, there's so many positives of social media, Weekend Trav, but it's also like the bane of our existence. It's supposed to be a tool that's brought us closer together,
Yep.
but it's further divided us,
Yep.
and it makes me really uncomfortable and sick.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's a lot we could talk about with this, and I know with this, though, taking some of those words and thoughts, we are somewhat in an echo chamber here with it, but I think you're in agreement with me that irregardless of if you're conservative or liberal, Republican, Democrat, middle of the road, whatever you are, we're in a mess. We're in a mess. And it's not one person that's done it. It's not a couple people that have done it. We have been played like fools, in my opinion, by this oligarchy of power that's a mixed mash of media, politicians, just powerhouses, and not necessarily one side of an aisle or another, but we have been played a fool at this point. We have been in this pot, and it's been stirred up, and here we are, and we're at each other's throats. It's sickening.
Listen, I think when you say we're in an echo chamber, I think I agree with you on a lot of things, and I think the one thing that we massively agree on is riots and violence we condemn.
Hell yeah.
Openly, we
Yes.
both condemn that. The massive carnage, the stupidity, the idiotic morons that there were 6 deaths, I believe now, that happened at storming the Capitol building. I support the protests. I support people not agreeing with the election and possible, and I'm saying possible, fraud. I agree with all of those people because I think the United States of America has always stood up for people to have their voice heard.
First Amendment.
And there's a lot of people that feel like their voice is not being heard. And that's why if you follow me, anything about me, I openly engage in civil discourse with people. Matter of fact, if you go to my Facebook, you will probably see more people that I don't agree with that I go back and forth with openly, and I do it civilly. Always have. Even when the other side, you can see my Facebook and you'll see it, they usually start to the name calling first. I never engage in that. I don't. And I've promised myself that I will never do that, and I don't. So I just think that this country is in a big, big crossroads right now. And I believe there's a big divide. There always has been. People want to pretend there's not been a divide.
There always has been.
Every single year, we have about 60 million people that vote for one person and about 60 million people that vote for another person. This year, we had 75 million vote for one and 80-some million vote for the other.
It's very few times in history where it's a landslide victory in the presidential race. Sure. Very few times in history.
Based on the numbers this year, you can consider that a landslide because 80 million compared to 74 or 75 million, considered a landslide. It
Sure.
would be. If my side won 80 to 74 or 75, I'd probably say it was a landslide. But it doesn't matter if it's a landslide or not because you alienate half the country still.
Here's the funny thing, though. If we want to pull it back to sports, if you had a team that was just above 500, you would say that's a pretty average team. That's not a powerhouse team coming in. So yes, while in political terms, voting-wise, you might say, yeah, that's a landslide, several million votes difference. Yeah, but when you look at the percentage of it, it's still almost right up the middle.
Oh no, it is, and but we have to come together as a nation and realize that no matter who you vote for, we still have to listen to other people's opinions and listen again, openly condemn it. I condemned it right away, the violence. I did. But I'm also going to condemn social media platforms for silencing people because I think that everybody deserves to be heard. Now, if you're making threats of violence and all of those sorts of things, then for sure, like I don't want to hear that and that doesn't need to be heard. But I think the bigger picture is we need to educate our citizens more. We need to inform them more. And I think that falls on the media. We have media to inform the citizens of America. And I don't think the media has openly and evenly and fairly informed its citizens. That's why we have a civil unrest going on.
So let me stop you right there on a couple of different fronts. On the media side, you're 100% correct. The media is there to inform of events going forward.
They're supposed to be.
Not to give their opinion and their take and to stir the pot up and to you basically take a hornet's nest and shake it. Unfortunately, because once the 24-hour news cycle started back years ago, that's what they've done to fill time because it's all about marketing dollars. And I don't care if you're Fox News, CNN, whoever you are, you're all guilty of the same thing. You're inciting 100%. A certain base of people because if I'm Fox News and I gravitate towards more of the right-leaning folks, they're going to be watching me on. They're going to have my TV on all the time. My parents, they have frickin' Fox News on almost like all day long. And you know what that helps? It helps Fox News make money off of the advertising revenue. Yep. Folks that have CNN all day long, or at the airport, CNN is on all day long. Ad revenue. Folks, you guys, you have to understand, we are being played so easily here. So easily.
We're being fed certain information.
We are. And you don't know what's truth and what's not. What I can tell you, Weekend Trav, is that when the day's said and done, I have to look at my family, my neighbors, my friends and family, and understand how I am with them. Yep. If we are better neighbors to one another, and it was there was a church message I had this morning. There's not one person or a group of people that's going to solve all this stuff for us. You know where it starts? I think that's where my heart is, right? That's my heart. It's right here. It starts here. It starts with all of us here first.
I'm going to give you the most profound and massive quote right now, and it's true. And this person was a Democrat, but it's true. It's ask not what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country. And that's where we all should be at right now because one, government is not going to fix our problems. Okay, that's been the biggest problem and the biggest misunderstanding of all time is that we look to the government to fix our problems. I do believe government is needed. We have 330 plus million people. We do need them, but we need them in small doses. But we don't need them to run our everyday life. That should come from our hearts. That should come from our souls. That should come from our neighbors. That should come, and I'm going to go there, Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. The more we have God in our hearts and in our lives, the better, because God teaches love. At the end of the day, I won't go into scripture, I won't go into all the other BS. At the end of the day, God teaches love. Love is mentioned more in the Bible than any other book in the history of the world, I believe. So we need more love, more God, a little less government, less government.
It's also a book that preaches forgiveness. I think far too often
none of us are perfect.
Bible haters, what they do, they get caught up in the Old Testament and they get caught up in the old Israelite days of killing and whatnot. But they forget the New Testament, forget the forgiveness involved and the love of, like you mentioned, of Christ. And so, I don't know. I
think forgiveness is taught in all of it, though.
Yes.
Even in the First Testament,
yeah,
forgiveness is taught.
Because
a lot of violence, but
Israel always made mistakes and God always called them back. So, I understand that. I don't know, Weekend Trav. It's semi-disheartening when you look at it from a 30,000-foot view. But when you get to the street level, when you get to the home level, what are we doing? What are the impacts that we can make on a daily basis to our little world? Not to what's going on in a different state, in a different country. Sure, it's nice to donate money or thought or whatever you're doing. But what are you doing on a daily basis to impact those around you? Because you know what? It's kind of like that pay it forward concept. You do that to your little network, then your little network, each person in that, maybe they're doing the same thing. And then all those people are doing the same thing, and it ripples out. And eventually, you know what? We don't need people on top of us telling me and telling all of you all, this is what you're supposed to think, this is what you're supposed to do, this is how we're supposed to act. And oh, by the way, we're going to shut down your communication, this and that. Oh, I meant to mention, devil's advocate here, I understand the methodology behind shutting down a certain platform because they were quote unquote inciting violence. I'm all for that. However, I want that to be an even stroke, not just against what seems to be one group of thinking. It should be across all others, because there's plenty of radical ideology coming from other countries that are still on Twitter.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because not only just across the globe, because everybody's on Twitter, it's a global platform, everybody's on there. So I think you're right, though, that this is my biggest problem, and I hope people can see this, is that we need to hold everybody to the same standard. If you are going to hold these people critical of these certain tweets or these certain social media posts, hold everybody to the same accountability, okay? And I mean elected officials, because everybody's like, oh, well, it was the president of the United States, Travis. He has the biggest platform. Well, I'm going to tell you right now that I've already posted tweets and videos of a person named Nancy Pelosi, who most people don't realize this. She's third in charge. It's the president, it's the vice president, then it's Nancy Pelosi. And she actually physically, verbally incited violence multiple times, okay? So hold everybody accountable.
Well, I'll give you another one.
If you want me to get on board with that, hold everybody accountable. And you know what? I've always said this. Donald Trump's rhetoric is horrific.
Correct.
That man ruined a lot of good stuff that he actually did do by opening his mouth via Twitter. Okay? That man, I was born and raised to not beat on your chest and tell everybody how great you are. I was learned to do the good things and let everybody else tell you things. So when you have to beat on your chest and tell everybody how great you are,
right,
you're not that great.
Yeah. So, there's just so much we could talk about with this. And one other example I had, you mentioned Nancy Pelosi. There's also Maxine Waters, that back during the summertime BLM riots, things like that, she is on record stating, no, go into the restaurants. Go disrupt everything. Go make a problem. And this is one of the.
I have a problem with anybody doing violence, and she's inciting violence, and she's a massive elected figure.
So that goes back to my point, folks. If you are still listening here, are we not aware of how we are being played as groups? We are being played by the left, by the right, by everyone in the middle. We're being played by the oligarchy on top, media, business folks alike. We are being played. I hope everyone recognizes that at a certain point. Yes, half of America is cheering some of the stuff that's going on right now by shutting down voices of others. The other half is rah-rahing, marching the Capitol, while the other half is condemning it, half against a half. I think what's going to end up happening, Weekend Trav, is that as we fast forward into the months and maybe years ahead, we're going to look back and be like, what in the heck were we thinking? What happened? It's going to culminate to something that's really, I don't know, I have a bad feeling that something's going to culminate to some breaking point that's really, really negative in our history. And it's not this. It's not what we just saw.
Now this is leading to something bigger.
I unfortunately think something else is going to happen, because you want to know why, folks? Those in America listening, we're showing our weaknesses easily. And we're showing the open door for something awful. And I really hope I'm wrong, but I just get this gut feeling, Weekend Trav, and we haven't talked about this, so I know I'm going off topic a little bit. I just have a really bad gut feeling that down the road we are opening ourselves up because we're being distracted. We're being distracted. Listen,
I believe in the American people.
Yes.
I don't believe in the American government. I've lost trust in them long before Donald Trump. I've told everybody this. Everybody wants to pretend like Donald Trump caused all this, and I say this to people. I go, listen, guys, Donald Trump didn't create this division. You know what he did? he highlighted it. He showed us all how divided we really are, and we have been for a while. And you know who's divided us? Washington.
Well, so
Washington, D.C. has divided us.
So I want to wrap up our political banter here on this episode, and I'm going to give you a number, and I'm going to give it a few seconds to pause. Maybe you're listening at home or watching at home. I'm going to give you an approval number, and you tell me who you think it's for. So the approval number I saw most recently was 11%. 11%, and this is from a government standpoint. Who do you think has an 11% approval rating?
I bet I could guess this.
Okay. Who do you think has the 11% approval rating?
Government, Washington, D.C.
Congress.
Yeah.
It's not the president.
Yep.
It's Congress.
This was even before Trump. It was
These
bad before
These
Trump.
are the people. And yes, and this is during, and the same kind of approval rating was also during the Obama years. It was for Congress. And we are letting these people stir the pots. So I'm going to stir the pots here right now and say, Weekend Trav, we're shutting the show down till next week.
Yeah.
Till next week. So, I think we had a good chat. I think we had a good chat about boxing. Ryan Garcia, man, he's a star. I mean, I would say he's a star in the making, but he's a star.
He's a current star.
He's a current star. He's now sponsored by Gatorade. He's got Nike. He's got all these guys calling him the king. He's got the self-proclaimed king of basketball calling him the king. Self-proclaimed.
Thank you for saying self-proclaimed.
And then obviously the chat that we had with regard to pound for pound, where we see Canelo next, where we see Terence Crawford next, and what needs to happen, we think, on at least our perspective, and then obviously the political topic that we had. Folks, once again, I'll go my final thought, then I'll go to your final thought, Weekend Trav. From B Money, the producer, my final thought is this. When you go home tonight, today, whenever you're listening, maybe you're single, maybe you have a family, look at those around you. Look at your family, look at your friendships, whoever that is, that tight community around you, and just look and be like, listen, I'm blessed. Number one, I'm blessed to have these folks around me. But number two, what am I doing? What am I doing to help them, improve on, love on them, everything, whatever it is, and then go from there. Each day, tackle it, one day at a time. And you know what? Ultimately, what happens? Our society blossoms from there because we're not looking up top. We're not looking at somebody else to do the work for us. We're literally, tying up our shoes and hitting the street every day, hustling and working hard and loving on those around us. I think that's what improves not only our country, our neighborhoods, our society, but ultimately our global impact.
I'm going to go a little deeper because I have my oldest brother is a Marine and a current police officer. He's been hired to go to D.C. on Inauguration Day. So my brother and his significant other at the time is going to be protecting the president-elect and Washington, D.C. So
that's a great honor.
All I can ask is that everybody put your differences aside and just listen. Violence is not the answer. It's not. So let's do it the right way. And a longtime conservative, as I am, and I know you are, we don't handle things that way. We handle things the correct way. We go the correct steps. And as of right now, guys, violence is not the correct step. We're separating and we're alienating more people by doing that. So just for my sake, my family's sake, let's peacefully transition right now and let's handle it the right way. We have another election in 4 years. We have another election in 2 years. Let's regroup. Let's get together. Let's handle this the right way. Let's give everybody a voice, but let's give everybody a voice that is not violent and fatal, because 6 people died as of right now from the Capitol storming, and one person is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Okay? One person is unacceptable. We are now in an age where we handle things in other ways. So I just ask people to put God first, put your neighbor right there with yourself. Love thy neighbor. Let's handle things in a better manner. Let's get together and let's be positive in how we do things. I'm not saying that all of this stuff that happened is not called for, but violence and death is not called for.
Right.
Let's handle it in a different way. And again, I have family that's going to be in D.C. that's going to be protecting the whole inauguration. And please, let's not be violent.
And you know what? I think even if you didn't, it's still the same message, right?
Agreed.
Still the same message. I think we need to understand. Sorry, I know we keep going back and forth on final thoughts, but this is it. We need to understand one person can think one way, another person can think another way.
That's okay.
It's not black or white. It's not wrong. That's not one right and one wrong. Why can't we come together? Why can't we discuss things? Why can't we actually be civil again? Why can't we turn the TV off, turn the social media off, and just chat like human beings?
Yep.
It comes down to that. Okay, it comes down to that. So, gosh, what a somber note. Let's bring it back. Thanks for joining us. If you have yet to subscribe, please do. Smash that subscribe button below. Hit the bell icon if you're on YouTube as well. Wherever you're at, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts. We're still there. We haven't shut us down, so we're still there.
Yes.
Please do follow us along or forward on to your friends. Media partners, thank you so much. TH Boxing, Gulfstream Financial, and IF Enterprises. We always appreciate your constant support and putting up with us.
Yep.
Yep. That's the closing word is yep.
Pretty much. That there is B Money.
And that there is Weekend Trav. Appreciate your time today. God bless.
Amen. God bless.
Go Paco.